I'm your host, Kyle Antoine, and welcome back to the Late Night Cooldown. Season 2 is coming in hot. Email latenightcooldown.mgmt@gmail.com for more information on coming on as a guest and who can come onto the podcast. Literally anyone. Homeless people, people in recovery, creatives and artists. Literally, if you have something you want to share and you think it's important that people hear it, you are more than welcome to apply to the podcast. Season 2 is going to take about a year to complete, so we have all the time in the world to figure out the details and to bring you on and get to know you and your life and your philosophy and whatever it is that you want to talk about. You are more than welcome to share your voice on the Late Night Cooldown. So today's episode is about the ticket out of poverty. Now, what does this mean? The ticket out of poverty is education, higher education. I got some statistics. We're not just going into statistics today. We are also going to dive into mindset and manifestation and the poverty mindset, or it's also known as the lack mindset. So I'm going to throw some facts, I'm going to throw some statistics, and we're going to tie it back into manifestation and how to get to a point where you're no longer living paycheck to paycheck. So let's get into it. The most direct evidence for education as a ticket out is the disparity in median weekly earnings. According to 2023 and 2024 labor statistics, bachelor degree holders, they are earning approximately $1,493. For someone with a high school diploma, their median weekly earnings are approximately $899. A degree holder earns roughly 66% more weekly than someone with only a high school diploma. Over a 40-year career, this premium translates to over $1.2 million in additional lifetime earnings. Education doesn't just increase wealth, it provides a floor that prevents falling into poverty during market downturns. The unemployment rate for those with a bachelor's degree typically hovers around 2.2%, compared to 3.9% for high school graduates and over 6% for those without a diploma. Data indicates that the poverty rate for adults with a bachelor degree or higher is approximately 4%, whereas it jumps to 12 to 14% for those with only a high school education. So that's like the poverty rates. So what this episode is really about is getting the one listening to this episode right now out of the poverty cycle if you're in it, and then preventing if and when you have kids, prevent them from also falling into the same cycle. This is really the goal of this episode, is to stop starving children, starving families, stressed out and anxious families. I want healthy, whole, and loving families. So let's dive into some Canadian and BC focused statistics. So overall, the BC labor market outlook. 80% of all job openings in British Columbia will require some form of post-secondary education or direct training. Jobs requiring only a high school education are shrinking due to automation, while high skill roles, which is areas of like health and tech and engineering, are expanding by 20 to 25%. So we aren't just talking about a piece of paper, we're talking about a risk mitigation strategy. If the math says that you're 3 times less likely to be in poverty with a degree, then the degree isn't an option, it's the engine of your sovereignty. Did you know that, I gotta pull up the statistics, but if you have a university degree, your children are significantly less likely to become impoverished, live paycheck to paycheck, and if you have a university degree, your children are more likely to have a university degree. And then that's the ticket out of generational poverty, is you getting a university degree, and then your children get a university degree, and the cycle continues. And this breaks the chain of the struggle of just trying to live, right? That's the ticket. So you may be wondering, okay, the ticket is to get a university degree. How do I do that? Or I don't know if I can, or maybe I'm not smart enough. Well, I say to you, I guarantee getting a university degree is easier than slowly starving every month. So in Canada, the degree isn't just a bonus, it's a categorical shift in earning power. According to 2026 statistics, so if someone with a high school diploma, they typically earn in a year $39,152. If they have a college or a trades diploma, that goes up to $48,785. So like the jump in, like almost $10,000 jump just by going into getting a college or a trade diploma. So then if you go get a bachelor's degree, it jumps up significantly by essentially $20,000. 68,000. So the annual income, median income for a bachelor's degree is $68,300 to $81,328. And if you have a professional or doctoral, you can make $100,000 or more a year. So this is called the 2x rule. A Canadian degree holder typically earns double what a high school graduate earns. It's not a linear gain, it's exponential. So this is the BC 80-20 rule, the labor market outlook. The stat: over 1.1 million job openings are expected in BC over the next decade. 80% of those jobs will require post-secondary education, a degree, a diploma, or trades. Only 12% of future job openings in BC will be available to those with only a high school education. Healthcare, tech, and professional services account for the largest share of new openings, all of which essentially mandate a university degree. So this is the ticket out for the upcoming generation. Recent Canadian tax data from 2024 to 2026 shows how education acts as the primary escape hatch. Educational attainment accounts for 40.5% to 50.1% of the intergenerational income correlation in Canada. This means half of a person's ability to out-earn their parents is tied directly to their level of schooling. Currently, 75.2% of 19-year-olds from high-income families are in university, compared to only 43.2% from lower-income backgrounds. If you don't get the degree, you're statistically choosing to stay in the 43% group that struggles to climb the ladder. In Vancouver, working poverty, which means earning an income but still being below the poverty line, affects roughly 6.8% of adults. Degree holders are significantly less likely to fall into the working poor category because their median hourly wages, approximately $32+ an hour, stay ahead of the localized inflation that crushes minimum wage or high school level roles. So 1.1 million jobs are coming. 80% of them won't even look at you without a credential. If you want to talk about sovereignty, you have to talk about being qualified to compete. So this is just the reality of our current world, and we gotta adapt, and we gotta change, and we gotta do something different if we are to escape living paycheck to paycheck. This is no longer, the 1970s and 80s. This is 2026, and if you don't want to, be struggling for the rest of your life, I think it's time to look into getting some higher level education. And if you are concerned about money, there are tons of bursaries and grants, and there are ways, if you want it bad enough, to get some education under your belt. So Poverty is often a trap because one bad month, like a car breakdown or a health issue, can cause a total collapse. People with a university degree are 3 times less likely to experience churn moving in and out of poverty than those with only a high school diploma. During the 2008 and 2020 economic downturns, unemployment for degree holders stayed significantly lower, peaking around 4 to 5%, while high school-only workers saw rates jump to 10 to 15%. A degree provides a floor that prevents the free fall into destitution. This is the compounding parent effect. I think this is what we were talking about. So this is where the generational part of poverty is broken. It's not just the money, it's the environment. Children of parents with a university degree score approximately 0.75 to 1.0 standard deviations higher on early childhood development tests. Educated parents subconsciously pass on navigational capital, knowing how to talk to teachers, how to apply for grants, and how to navigate bureaucratic systems. This is the invisible ticket that keeps their children from falling behind. And if you decide to go to university and then you have kids, or if you have, young kids and you go to university, then that means you've already navigated all the tough shit, all the figuring it out, how to, I got to talk to the registrar, and then I got to, talk to all these different people just to get enrolled. And so once you understand how the process works, your kids have a way easier chance of getting in the door, because sometimes it's a matter of how fast can you apply. And if you already have the know-how, then your kids just that much more likely to, get the education that, is essentially needed in today's world. So recent data from 2024 shows that just one extra year of a parent's education increases their child's lifetime earnings by an average of 1.2%, even if the child doesn't get a degree themselves. So social mobility in Canada is higher than in the US, but it's still heavily tied to credentials. A child born into the bottom 20% of earners who get a degree has a 19% chance of reaching the top 20%. Without the degree, their chance is a measly 5%. First-generation degree holders see a median household income of roughly $100,000 compared to the $45,000, $55,000 average for those without a degree. That jump is the definition of eliminating poverty in a single generation. Poverty is expensive because it takes a toll on the mind. In Canada, there is a 7-year gap in life expectancy between the highest and the lowest educational tiers. Higher education leads to careers with more autonomy, control over your schedule. This reduces the toxic stress that typically keeps impoverished families in a state of survival mode, allowing the next generation to focus on thriving rather than surviving. If you look at the 2026 return of investment data, 70% of degree holders see a positive return within just 10 years. But the real math is in the intergenerational correlation. Education accounts for 50% of your ability to out-earn your parents. If you want your kids to never know what not enough feels like, the degree is the most provable variable we have. In a nutshell, that is the ticket out of poverty and the prevention manifesto. Now we jump into the scarcity versus abundance mindset. A Harvard study found that intense focus on one thing, like a lack of money, can cause you to miss other opportunities right in front of you. So the core belief of scarcity mindset is life is a finite pie. One person's win is your loss. The abundance mindset would be there's plenty to go around for everyone. The primary emotions of scarcity mindset are fear, anxiety, and envy. In the abundance mindset, the primary emotions are gratitude, peace, and confidence. When you're in scarcity mindset, you think about the short-term survival and what is missing. And the abundance mindset, long-term growth and existing wins. The scarcity mindset is hoarding, competition, and playing it safe. The abundance mindset is sharing, collaboration, and taking risks. In the context of manifestation, your beliefs act as a radio dial. If you are tuned in to scarcity, you will likely only see and attract evidence of lack. Many beliefs about scarcity are formed by age 7 and are deeply rooted in family history or evolutionary survival. These unconscious scripts often run in the background, informing your reality regardless of your current bank balance. Proponents of manifestation suggest that thoughts have frequency. A scarcity mindset operates from fear, while abundance operates from love and trust. Shifting your vibration through positive beliefs is thought to magnetize the reality you wish to receive. A Yale University study showed that people with positive beliefs about aging lived 7.5 years longer than those with negative perceptions, illustrating how deeply internal beliefs can impact physical reality. Changing your mindset is a conscious daily practice of rewiring your brain's neural networks. Regularly acknowledging what you already have creates a foundation for receiving more. Attitudes are contagious. Seek out those who view the glass as half full. Viewing someone else's win as evidence that success is possible, rather than a threat, shifts you out of a competitive zero-sum paradigm. And picturing yourself already living your desired reality helps you to shift your internal energy and unblock limiting beliefs. So that right there just shows you that, highly educated people have looked into the power of manifestation and the power of belief, and have confirmed through those studies that what you believe tends to become a reality for you. Now, I'm of the belief that we manifest and we co-create our own internal reality. And reality, in my point of view, is generated from within, so without. Meaning that everything in your life has come as a result of what's going on internally, inside you. If we're operating from a scarcity mindset, then there's never enough. You could have $1 million in your bank account, not tied to any debt or loan or what, and it would still not be enough because you would be so focused on what could go wrong instead of, what is going right. The abundance mindset, the creative, the loving, and the grateful parts of our lives, ourselves, is how people become truly and massively successful in life, in career, in whatever endeavor they do, because they understand the nature of the universe. If you are operating from a place of fear and a place of not enough, then you're not likely to go dream. You'll have goals outside of your immediate survival. You're not likely to get out of the poverty cycle. You're not likely to go get a university education. Because why would you go for higher learning if you can make money now and buy food and your basics? And why should you want a university degree? Because life is more than just about surviving. And when you can get past survival and you can and your needs are met, and then you can focus on living. You can focus on making more money, not for the sake of making more money, but for the sake of having the freedom to do whatever you want. Personally, that's my reason for wanting a lot of money, so I can do what I want, not just for myself, but for my communities, my country, my city. And I'm really of no great use if I don't have the resources to go and do what it is that I want to do. So a poverty mindset is more than just a lack of money. It's a psychological framework rooted in the deep-seated belief that resources, opportunities, and success are inherently limited. The poverty mindset is from the root chakra. That's first dimensional consciousness. The root chakra literally just deals in your immediate survival. Food, water, and that's it. And staying alive. Food, water, and by any means stay alive. Which is all good and well for a time. And then you realize that there's more to life. There's the sacral chakra. And that there's some creativity and sex and passion. And then there's the solar plexus chakra, third dimensional consciousness, that there's things in this world that you can go and do and experience, and identities that you can try on, and all of these different things involved in the humanness of your life experience. And that's your ego, that's your pride, that's your confidence in your solar plexus. That's your ability to be extroverted. That's your ability to make social connection. And then we have the heart chakra, fourth dimensional consciousness. And this connects you to the love of the universe. Connects you to the love for yourself. This shifts you out from that root chakra energy into this higher, more powerful, creative energy that the root chakra just doesn't do. And then you can even get up to fifth dimensional consciousness, your throat chakra. And what is this? This is your manifestation power. You know, speak it into existence. Your manifestation. You creating the life that you want to live. That sits in your throat chakra. And then your ability to see beyond the veil, to see beyond yourself, that sits in your third chakra, your sixth dimensional consciousness. And what is consciousness? That's awareness. It means you're aware. And so when you enter into the sixth dimensional state, in the context that I'm talking about, is now you're intuitive. Now you have an inkling. Now you feel divinely guided. Now things don't seem so bad. Now things aren't as hard. Now you have an understanding. Then you get to the seventh dimensional consciousness, and that's your crown chakra. And that's, oh my goodness, I'm a soul. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience. And there's a key difference in that, and that is not what you will go to once you die. The more important question is, where were you? Not the body, not the self in this human body, but where were you specifically before coming into the body? And that's the question, that's the reminder that's going to unlock everything for you. Is figuring out who you are at the core, most central, most deepest part of you, aside from the beliefs, aside from the mindsets, aside from your history in this lifetime. So key indicators of a poverty mindset manifest in specific behavioral patterns that can persist if someone's financial situation improves. Extreme risk aversion, viewing any risk as dangerous and prioritizing playing it safe over potential growth. And this is huge. People want to talk about not living out their dreams, not going after their goals. Chances are it's not because you're incapable of doing them. Chances are it's because you're in this poverty mindset. And I want to make a note that it's not your fault per se. It's just the way society kind of teaches you how to be poor, how to be without. We're not really taught that we are also responsible for the part that we play in not having enough. And it's okay to want more money. It's okay to want more, period. It's just a matter of believing you deserve it and believing that you can attain it. And believing that there is enough for you to get what it is that you need and what you want, so long as it doesn't harm other people, right? Or yourself. With yourself, it's a bit of a gray area, but you know what I mean. So focusing on price over value is another key indicator of a poverty mindset. Identifying worth purely by cost rather than utility, often leading to overpaying for status symbols to seek external validation. And these are the people who are so, and this is sad, so insecure, deeply insecure about either their financial situation or otherwise, that they feel that they gotta drip themselves out in, secondhand Gucci, or, you know what I mean? Holy fuck. Fucking guy. Literally walking across the road and he fucking tries to keep going. And I'm like, I looked at him and I just put my hand, I'm like, what are you doing? Anyways. And so another thing that goes with that indicator is that, have you ever noticed, like, when you buy something from a dollar store, it tends to break either that day or within a week. Sure, it was, $2 or $1, but if you just spent the extra 10, it would have lasted you probably maybe years. And so that's the other benefit of operating in abundance, is investing in the value and the quality of something rather than just buying out of pure, is it cheap enough? Because when you're operating, even if you're just beginning, once you start operating in that abundance mindset, you know that there's enough and you know that you'll be taken care of. Frugality and hoarding, feeling a gnawing anxiety that there's never enough, leading to hoarding of items or cash instead of putting resources to work. And there's so many people, especially from the World War II era, or really any era where there was great economic burdens on society as a whole. And that leads obviously to hoarding cash, assets, resources, physical items, because they're operating in that fear and that scarcity mindset that what if another war happens? What if another economic downturn happens? Well, this goes back to education. When you have that safety net of having a valuable university degree or college diploma or trades certification, then that really lessens the impact of economic downturns. And that's how you can avoid hyperfrugality and hoarding, is by being educated and putting your certifications, whether it's a degree or a diploma, whatever, to use. And while you are getting that diploma, also work on what it is that you actually want to do. If you want to do anything in the arts, anything that's creative, you are totally do it as well on the side. But ensuring that you have that safety net and that valuable degree. So I'm not saying, you know, other degrees are less valuable, but learn what you want to learn, but also, you know, make wise decisions on what you go into. Make sure that there is jobs waiting for you once you complete the certification or the degree. And another key indicator of the poverty mindset is a victim mentality. Blaming external forces, the system, or wealthy individuals for one situation, which leads to a sense of helplessness. And this one is major. The universe loves compassion, the universe loves understanding and honesty, and it loves people who, in spite of the odds or perceived odds, they continue to go after their dreams and their goals and what they want to bring into their reality and into the world in spite of the odds. And this is something that I've experienced growing up, and, you know, being around people who just blame, you know, wealthy people, whether they're billionaire status or not, but wealthy people, for them having their own success. And it's very naive to say, oh, a billionaire had to step on some heads, or there's no ethical billionaires. I'm sure there's some unethical billionaires for sure. But is it really unethical to have lots of money? Or is it just that they created and provided so much value for most of the human population that people just threw money at them? Where there's value, there's going to be people who want to have that value added into their lives. Amazon didn't become a multi-billion-dollar corporation on accident. And Jeff Bezos wasn't always rich. You know, there's famous interviews of him when Amazon maybe was worth a few $1 million, and he was working on a desk that he built. And I'm pretty sure it was literally like a door. And he drove like a Toyota. Now he's created so much value and utilized the resources that were at his disposal, and had a vision, and he executed every single moment of every single day for like years, for decades. That kind of recipe of creating value, having a vision, and executing every moment of every single day for decades, that's a recipe for success in whatever area you decide to go into. So don't be mad at Jeff Bezos because you are too lazy to, in spite of the odds, in spite of your circumstances, you must just fucking go for it. What do you have to lose? Unless you're hoarding, not much. Jokes. And I don't say this to dog on you. And I don't say this to get on your case about, you know, you're just too lazy. Sure, there's people who work hard, who are still dead broke. And I say to them, get educated. Get educated. That's the whole thing. That's the ticket out of poverty, is higher level education. Higher level certification. So shifting away from this mindset of poverty requires intentional rewiring of your psychological response to money. I have 5 points here. 1. Invest in self-development. Reframe spending on education or health as a high return of investment (ROI) rather than a risky expense. 2. Financial education. Learning how global and personal finance actually work helps dismantle myths that wealth is purely based on luck. 3. Proactive goal setting. Moving from reactive survival to proactive planning by breaking large goals into small, achievable steps. 4. As practice, generosity as practice. Practicing small acts of giving helps convince the brain that there is indeed enough to share. And 5. Language reframing. Switching from "I can't afford that" to "How can I afford that?" to move the brain into problem-solving mode. So I am of the belief that whatever you think or you believe to be absolutely true for yourself, for others, and for the world is what's going to be true for you. Or at least you are only going to perceive all of the data you experience through your existence as confirming that belief, a confirmation bias, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is the how to get to a point where you can enter higher level education. And even if you don't want to be like Jeff Bezos and create a multi-billion-dollar company, education is essentially a requirement for you and your children and the younger generations so that they're not living paycheck to paycheck. You know, a high school diploma is not what it used to be. It's not worth as much. As value went down. As society gets more technologically advanced, as society gets more educated, if you don't have university level education, the reality essentially is you will be left behind. The safety net can only catch so many people at once. I want to make sure my safety net isn't dependent on other people, that I'm independent financially, that I can take care of myself financially. And it's not luck. It's learning, it's hard work, it's discipline, it's getting outside of what you know, or at least what you think you know about how the world works and about life in general and about finances. Once you get out of that space of what you think you know and getting into the actual facts of the matter, it becomes a lot easier to handle. You cannot tackle an issue without knowing everything about the issue. You gotta know what you're handling. You gotta know what you're solving. And finances are math. You can look at your experiences as, is this going to give me a good return of investment? You can look at your energy on a day-to-day as your budget for the day. You know, is this interaction going to give me a good return of information, wisdom? Is this going to lead anywhere? If not, I'm not saying ignore anyone. Don't be an opportunist per se in that way. But what I'm saying is it really worth arguing with that person? Is it really worth proving your point to someone who just doesn't give a fuck anyway? Is this a dead-end job going to provide the life that I dream of? Chances are probably not. And so chances are you should probably look into higher education. And higher education could also just be going into the arts, like film production, or film in general, or production. The arts are always going to be around. They're less stable than other industries, and that's just the nature of art. Things come and go. But if you think, or if you know you got it within you to be successful, do everything in your power to be successful. So here's some more key statistics on the education side of things. In 2023, individuals with a bachelor's degree earned approximately 67% more per week than those with only a high school diploma. 67% is huge. 67% is huge. And according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the 2023 unemployment rate for those with a professional degree was just 1.2% compared to 6.2% for those without a high school diploma. So that means if you only have a high school diploma, there's essentially a 6.2% chance that you're not going to have a job, whether you want to have a job or not. And children of university-educated parents are significantly less likely to live in poverty themselves, creating a generational lift effect. And there's so much on manifestation. There's so much on the importance of education. It's not just a bunch of whoopee. It's not just a bunch of horse shit. This is the fact of the matter. Rich people, essentially ensure their kids get highly educated. It's not just a scam like some of these podcasters and influencers try to make it seem. And most of these quote-unquote influencers who are quote-unquote entrepreneurs don't actually have the money that they claim they do. All of it's just for show. Most of it's just for show. Most of it's just to sell you a book or to sell you a course. Someone who's making the kind of money that they claim they are online trying to sell you a course. They're out in the real world doing shit, experiencing shit, having fun in life. They're not busy on social media. Some are actually influencers, and that's how they make a living, and that's real. But if someone's trying to sell you a course instead of trying to provide value for free, and then you pay through your attention, your view, that's how you make money in the business world. Is you have a product, either that's yourself or that's an actual physical merchandise, and that is valuable. And when people see value, they tend to want to buy it. And when word gets around, people want to buy more of it. And then eventually you've sold 1 billion products. So it's really just creating value where there's none, or where it's lacking, filling a space and providing the value there. UNESCO estimates that if all adults globally completed secondary education, the number of people living in poverty could be cut by more than half. That's an insane statistic. In half. And highly educated people are happier. They tend to view their jobs as careers rather than just a way to make a living. They're insatiable They have insatiable curiosity. They view the world as an intricate set of texts to be read and understood, remaining lifelong learners regardless of their passion. Intellectual humility, a hallmark of deep education, is the realization that the more they learn, the less they know. They are comfortable admitting when they are wrong and are open to evaluating opinions contrary to their own. Critical thinking and analytical rigor, they don't blindly accept information. Instead, they question assumptions. They discern truth from error and can break complex realities into smaller, manageable pieces to solve problems. There's a famous quote, I think if it's real, but I think it's from Einstein. And he says, if you are trying to explain a complex issue and you can't do it in a way that a 4-year-old would understand, you don't actually understand, the problem that you're trying to explain. Openness to experience is another trait of the highly educated. Statistically, higher education is strongly associated with openness, a personality trait linked to curiosity, creativity, and a willingness to try new things. And education opens doors. University level education or trades education opens doors that just will not exist for you otherwise. And you network and you meet people and you develop yourself intellectually and you learn. And I am of the belief that the point of living is to effing learn. It's to fucking learn and do better. So they also, and some more traits are, they have nuanced communication. They can express complex ideas clearly and persuasively, both in writing and in speech. They are active and empathetic listeners. They work hard to truly hear others, following logical arguments while also sensing the emotions behind them. A truly educated person can hold a thoughtful conversation with anyone, from a Nobel laureate to a child, out of a genuine interest in what makes that person unique. So being highly educated also humanizes people to you. It connects you through, intellect to others. Like, isn't that incredible? And higher education often fosters systematic thinking about ethical problems, leading to a deeper sense of community responsibility, and personal integrity. What is community responsibility? It's just feeling responsible for the part and impact you have on your community. And if we had more people in higher education, if you go get a university degree, chances are your kid is going to get a university degree, which means that chances are they're not going to end up in prison. So our crime rates are going to go down if more people get educated. Some more traits and habits of the highly educated are they possess the flexibility to handle ambiguity and adjust to rapid changing circumstances or new challenges. And so the more educated you are, the better equipped you are with the skills and the knowledge and the wisdom you gain through education. It's going to help you navigate life in general. Who doesn't want that? And perhaps the most important trait is the ability to see connections between seemingly unrelated topics, allowing them to make sense of the world in creative ways. They have aesthetic appreciation. They often cultivate an appreciation for the arts, literature, music, and theater, viewing them as essential contributions to human history. So that means that the more highly educated people we have, the better we can support and sustain the entertainment industries. And they're proactive rather than reactive. And so this just means they tend to seek out information and plan ahead rather than simply reacting to environmental stressors. And that is the key right there. That is the abundance mindset. They tend to seek out information and plan ahead rather than simply reacting to environmental stressors. That's the key right there. That's the ticket out of poverty. That is what leads you into an abundance mindset. That's what's going to keep you out of poverty. It's going to get you out of poverty, keep you out of poverty, and it's going to prevent your kids from going into poverty. Or at least this is the most massive way that you can essentially eliminate poverty in your bloodline forever, at least for you and your children. So now we're going to touch on the 12 universal laws of the universe. And the 12 universal laws are the quote, physics of the soul. While the law of attraction gets all the fame, these ancient hermetic principles suggest that everything in the universe is governed by a specific set of spiritual rules. The first law, the law of divine oneness. Everything is connected. Every thought, action, and event is linked to everything else. What you do to others, you ultimately do to yourself. Number two, the law of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything in the universe has a specific frequency. To manifest something, you must tune your internal vibration, your emotions and thoughts, to match the frequency of what you want. And I apologize for any, deep breathing or sniffles. I am walking to the gym and it's fucking cold out. So forgive me. I was like, I gotta finish this and release it. I was supposed to release at 10, then I pushed it to 12, and then now it's, almost 5 in the morning, and I'm still recording. Anyways, so number 4, the law of correspondence. As above, so below. Your external world is a mirror of your internal state. If your life feels chaotic, look for the chaos within. 5, the law of cause and effect, also known as karma. Every action has a reaction. You harvest exactly what you sow, whether it's positivity or negativity. And this really breaks down the victim mindset. If things aren't going your way, it's because there's something within you that's causing these things to happen. It's not just random. You didn't just get dealt a bad hand. It's because you are creating it. If you have shitty fucking circumstances, chances are you got shitty fucking thinking and shitty fucking feelings, and you got to deal with it. I don't play victim here, and I want to help you feel empowered. That's really what this is about. Number 6 is the law of compensation. This is the harvest of cause and effect. The universe compensates you based on your contributions and the value you provide to others. So if you, and this is really how the abundance really flows, is that when you give to people who without, the universe compensates you. You get it back. And in my point of view, that's on top of what you would naturally get. So there's interest in the context of finances. There's interest in the 6th law of the universe. 7, the law of attraction. Like attracts like. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. And that's powerful right there. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. Become someone who is open and loving and grateful. And the universe is going to provide things for you to love, and that is kind to you, and that you would be grateful for. So you don't get what you want, you get what you are. Your dominant thoughts and feelings pull similar energies toward you. The eighth law is the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Energy is constantly moving and changing forms. You have the power to change high density energy like fear into light energy like hope through focus. And this is powerful too. In the study of the brain and the study of the mind, highly educated people have found that the brain changes. The brain is what it's called neuroplastic. It has neuroplasticity, which means that your brain isn't just set a certain way and now that's why, no, you can change your brain. And your brain is a byproduct of your consciousness. It's a byproduct of you.
Traveling west.
So this means that whatever you were taught about you or the world or finances, whatever it is as a child, it's what you're going to tend to believe once you're older. And so this law really points out that you have the power within yourself already to shift that vibration into something more positive. And if you can just choose to be more hopeful, wouldn't you want that? I want it. I've done it. I like it. And so that's why I share this to you. The ninth law is the law of relativity. Nothing is good or bad on its own. Everything is relative. Challenges are simply neutral tests designed to help us strengthen our perspective and character. There's the story of a Buddhist who attained a very high level in his spiritual practice. And he eventually came to a point where he just said that essentially he was wrong on every level. He never achieved ultimate truth. Because as his consciousness raised, there were things that were true for that level of consciousness that were no longer true for the previous states of consciousness. And then as he, went higher into a higher level of awareness and consciousness of the spiritual practice and perspectives on life, he realized that the previous one that he just left also was no longer true. So he made the conclusion, and I think it's totally accurate, that you're never going to really know the ultimate truth, the end-all be-all, the true alpha and omega of life, of our existence, of God, of whatever, because as you change, the world changes. And maybe, in my opinion, the ultimate truth and the ultimate reality is that you are the creator, or at least a part of the creator. You are a co-creator. And that is a powerful message in my view. That is there really a difference between creation and creator? I'm starting to think not so. Is it all literally just God playing within God? Something to ponder. So then we get to the 10th universal law, and that's the law of polarity. Everything has an opposite, light and dark, hot and cold. If you are experiencing a negative, the positive must exist. You can use your focus to slide along the pole toward the side you prefer. And if you prefer negative shit, if you prefer poverty, if you prefer being a victim, then that's your choice. You can. But if you prefer living the life that you want to live and living a life, in my opinion, worth living, come over to the positive side of the polarity, right? You have the power. to do that. I am hoping my audio is not getting absolutely destroyed by the traffic, but it's going to be what it's going to be. And then we come to the 11th law, which is the law of a rhythm. Everything flows in cycles, seasons, tides, economies. Understanding this helps you stay centered during the low points, quote unquote, knowing the quote unquote high is naturally coming back around. And that's pretty self-explanatory. And finally, 12, the law of gender. Everything has masculine, active outward energy, and feminine, receptive and inward energies. Balance is required for creation. This law also dictates that all seeds, which are ideas, have a gestation period before they manifest. And if you're manifesting something huge, something grand, it's going to take time for it to come to. It's going to take time to grow. It's going to take time to gestate. Gestation is the the 9 months of the human pregnancy cycle. Like, that's gestation, and it takes time to create a human being. It takes 9 months. Well, it takes 1 second, and then it takes 9 months to come out. You get what I mean, though. You get it. And so those are the 12 universal laws. You can literally look up right now 12 universal laws, how to apply into Google, into whatever, and it'll tell you everything. And this is the ticket out of poverty, the prevention manifesto, which is preventing your children from being impoverished, and their children's children, and their children's children. And then this is how to get there and to manifest. This is the most simple, basic outline and designed for living a life of your dreams. Not just surviving, but actually fucking living. Actually fucking creating. And this is what's going to be your saving grace if you just follow these 3 things. These spiritual guidelines, the prevention manifesto, and education are your ticket out of poverty. Thank you for listening to the Late Night Cool Down. I've been your host, Kyle Antoine. Make sure you email latenightcooldown.mgmt@gmail.com to guest on my podcast, and we will figure out the details. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.